Hey everybody, Mike Barr here. It is Sunday, February 5th, 2022. And for Safety Sunday today, I want to talk about job briefings. Job briefings is something that I've been behind job briefings since the beginning, since they first were required back in 1994. When we first got 1910-269. And of course, OSHA requires that employees do this and that we conduct at least one job briefing at the start of the workday. I believe it's a critical function. And I view it as one of the most important things that we can do if it's done correctly. And if we perform our hazard assessments correctly and we transfer that information to the employees, then I think these things can go a long ways towards reducing our SIFs, our serious injuries and fatalities. We know that these briefings need to address the hazards that may be present. Some of the specific work procedures and, the special precautions that we need to take, whether we need to control energy sources, what personal protective equipment is required. So that's the purpose of it. And they don't need to be long, and they just need to be based on the hazard assessments that have been performed. And they also need to be specific to the job duties. And of course, the conditions that the employees are going to face that day. And if they change, if these conditions change, then we need to step back and go through another updated briefing. So, guys, I spend a lot of time out in the field, and when I get to spend time with crews, I make it a point to try and attend as many of these morning briefings as I can. And I've noticed a trend, and this has been going on for a lot of years. It's one of the things I really, really try very hard when I work with companies that to change this. And it just seems to me like a lot of companies have gotten into this mode where they're more concerned about the form itself and how well it's prepared and how much stuff I can put on it. And I get that. I do. I understand that the companies want to protect themselves. And so it just seems to me like a lot of these forms are getting, there's more emphasis on the form itself and what is written on it than there is how we actually conduct that job briefing and how effective that job briefing is. And, just recently, I was on a job site that had an electrocution. The individual luckily was brought back by the use of a defibrillator, but we went out to the field to do an investigation, and we were going to have a job briefing before we went out to the field. And the person that was giving the job briefing, that filled out the form, did what he does probably every day, is he fills out the form and he just starts passing it around to the individuals to sign before we go out to the field. And that's what's happening, is that we're just worried about the signatures. And guys, that's not the purpose of that form, of course. And one of my clients that I work with actually requires all these forms to be turned in, and then they're graded. Somebody sits down and gives them a grade, A through F, right? And they grade how well the form is filled out. And I'm not implying that there's necessarily anything wrong with that and checking how well they're being prepared. But that doesn't tell me a thing about how that information was transferred to the crew. That's what's important. And again, it's not uncommon for me to be in the field and just see these forms being passed around. And I really think that our crews are getting a little they're getting complacent, and they're feeling like sometimes that we're just using this form as a way to keep people out of trouble, and that's all I want to say about that. So they don't need to be long, but they do need to be based on the hazards, and specific to the job duties and again the conditions that we're going to face in that day. And we need to be looking at and talking about the hazards associated, the work procedures, any special precautions that we need to take. PPE, any concerns from the crew, and especially when it comes to the fatal four. We really need to be looking at electrical and falls and caught between and struck by, because that's where most of these SIFs occur. So, we need to be talking to the guys about the possibilities of working on or near, exposed energized parts, and whether electrical contact is something that is a concern. Where are we working? Where's those booms going to be? Where's our men going to be in relation to MAD? Could there be induced voltages, as it relates to de-energized equipment? Is there backfeed? Is there possibilities of flash potential, step and touch potential? Am I grounding the trucks, and where am I grounding? How am I grounding them? And if I am grounding that truck, what am I doing to keep people, away from it? We need to be talking to these guys about their protective measures. MAD distance, what am I going to be working in close proximity? And if so, what PPE is needed? Do I need cover? Do I need spotters? How am I going to keep and make sure I'm keeping people inside clearance points if I'm inside a substation and I'm working in a bay that I've de-energized? Does everybody understand where those clearance points are and what our MAD distances are to other bays that are still energized? So these are the things that need to be addressed. Fall protection, of course, 100% fall protection. Am I wearing fall arrest? Am I wearing, work positioning equipment? Am I going to use fall restraint? Those all apply to different situations, of course. So, when it comes to the struck by, are we talking about making sure that people are, is anybody working in the bite with conductors under tension? Any other kind of energy under tension, pinch points, situational awareness and communication when lifting and moving equipment so that we don't have these caught between incidents. Inspect our rigging for proper size and load limits and that, our cranes and our equipment set up properly. And has load capacity been checked? Am I following the charts, or am I just picking stuff up? So these are all the things that need to be addressed. Traffic control, we lose people in work zones. It just is, when I'm moving and shifting loads, vehicle stability. What about using UTVs, ATVs? Those we're seeing people getting hurt, utilizing that equipment. So, but one thing I want to leave you with here today is when I try to finish a job briefing, what I try to encourage people to do when that job briefing is completed, there's four big questions that I like to see people finish with, and when all the crew is there, we've been briefed and we're ready to go to work. There's four questions that I like to kind of go over to kind of finalize. Number one, what are the critical steps of the work to be performed? What are, and then once we ask that, how could a mistake be made when we're making those critical steps in today's task? And what's the worst thing that could go wrong? And then a fourth and final one I like to ask is, what barriers, what defenses, have we addressed it properly? But try to get that discussion going and make sure everybody is on the same page. And if we do that, and combine that with our stop work authority, I think these two simple things that we can do, if we take them serious and we truly address the hazards and talk about, the fatal four especially, and guys, electrical's the big one, right? We're seeing a lot of contact, a lot of booms being put in lines, a lot of people, violating MAD and making contact. So we just need to do better. These accidents simply don't need to happen. And the way I just want to finish today's talk like I do every talk I give is that remember, you're the last one to have the hands on it. You are the last one to have that train of thought go through your mind on what got you where you're at and your crew, where you are, what you're about to do, and what the potential outcome is. You are number one, just you. So take care of yourself, be careful, watch out for your brothers and sisters, and let's all go home to our families and loved ones. Thanks a lot.